What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. And before we get into the video, I just want to give a shout out to all of you that continue to support this channel, watch these videos, and stick it out during the sideways, choppy action, bear market action, because it is you who will benefit the most when we do have that reversal. Now, when is that reversal going to happen? Well, look at what happened with the S&P yesterday. We actually have a gap right here. Big red candle. In fact, from the top of this peak right here down to where we are right now, the S&P is down another 6.5%. And Bitcoin is also sitting at a very critical level that we do need to talk about today. Now, due to the fact that we did have the CPI reports come out and say that inflation is at a 4-decade high, well, markets reacted accordingly. And I was anticipating that we would have the dollar come back down to this 100 level, but instead it actually pumped through this resistance right here as more investors leave these risky assets and put their money into dollars, which is funny considering that inflation is going up. But I guess in their minds, it's like, well, if Bitcoin can potentially fall another 25 to 50% and we're only having 9% inflation for the dollar, I guess I'll pick the lesser of the two evils, right? But the thing we need to talk about right now is, yes, Bitcoin is still in this consolidation. We are going sideways. However, you could see right here, we are at a very, very critical level. And not to mention that, but if we look right here, Bitcoin is potentially about to close its lowest weekly candle in over a year and a half. So just having a look at just the few things I just said at the beginning of this video, it seems like it's quite grim for Bitcoin. In fact, sentiment is so bad right now. We have the fear and greed down at extreme fear. How much worse could it possibly get? Well, what I want to revisit today is a fractal that we actually talked about with Bitcoin, and if it could possibly play out similarity. We talked about the fact that we did have the hash ribbon indicator marking capitulation for the miners, right? So we're going to go into all that today, and specifically, I want to talk about something that we really haven't seen Bitcoin do before, and well, I don't want to kind of spoil it for you, but if Bitcoin does end up doing this, it could get a little rough short term. However, there is a silver lining at the end of this rainbow cloud, pot of gold. Totally screwed that up, but you know what I meant, guys. So with that being said, we do actually have some good news today. We do have some bullish news. A lot of these, guys like credit card companies are looking into Bitcoin. And also, forget about Web 2 and Web 3. We're going straight to Web 5. So if all that sounds good to you today, thanks again for coming back. I love you. You're awesome. Stick around. Get subscribed. Hit the bell notification because we might have some emergency videos coming up next week because we might be due for some volatility. So that being said, guys, obviously I've talked too much. Let's get to the video. Stop talking, K-Dub. Get to the charts. That's why we're here. So having a look right here, guys, you can see that we did in fact lose right here. See, we had this upward sloping trend. Boom. We actually lost that, but really, if I get rid of it, it doesn't actually change much. This was a short-term thing that we were kind of looking at. Maybe it was going to play out, but look, you take it away, exactly the same, guys. We are still bouncing right here between 28,800 and 31,700. A little bit of fake out to the upside, a little bit of fake out to the downside, but we are still just going sideways. Now, you can obviously see right here that a breakout to the upside would bring us up here, potentially to around this $34,000 level. And don't forget, we still have this CME futures gap right here, okay? And that would be at 35,150. But the question is, will we close this gap? Will Bitcoin actually end up, coming up here doing something like this? Or are we just going to go straight shot down to the 26K into the blue zone? Because inevitably, we are looking for a big move for Bitcoin. Now, you can see right here that there could be a little bit of a fake out to the downside because we still are in this descending wedge pattern, falling wedge pattern. So if this support was to get lost, we could potentially just come down here to about 27,500 and still technically be in the same pattern, nothing to really freak out in the short term. However, when I was talking about these minor capitulation signals on the hash ribbons, if you did watch my video, we were discussing the fact that yes, we did technically get the signal, But you could see that essentially between the actual capitulation event itself and then the buy signal for the recovery, we do have between 1 and 3 months until we potentially get that, right? So it is possible that Bitcoin could actually trend downwards and sideways for 1 to 3 months before actually getting that signal. But you could see that every single time we get it, and I'm talking about the green lines right here, you could see we got the signal, Bitcoin pumped 46%. Right here, we got the signal, Bitcoin pumped 47%. Right here, we got the signal. Now, I don't know where you guys want to take this. If you want to go to the top, that's 40%, or we could go all the way to the top, that's 600. But technically, we did get another signal here, so let's just ignore that. And from this signal to the top, that was 240%. Same thing right here, from bottom to top, that's around 59%. And currently, we are not having that buy signal yet, but if we were to come out 3 months on average, having a 33%, from that, well, that could potentially get us back into that $40,000 range. And I did say that that was possible. So ultimately what you're seeing here is an amazing opportunity for accumulating cryptocurrency. And, there were a lot of new people. Maybe you're one of those people that kind of jumped into crypto in the past year and a half or 2 years, and you just kind of got on the excitement wave, and maybe you did make some money, but also maybe you bought the top, right? Now, here's the thing. Although right now is probably not the best time to essentially be in altcoins. In fact, where is my Bitcoin dominance chart right here? I could pull this up. You can see right here clearly that, Bitcoin dominance, although we did stall out here a little bit, has started to push upwards, and it is headed towards the 50% range. Now, the reason that this is happening is because cryptos as a whole are actually risky, right? Or at least they're considered risk on assets, right, to traditional investors. But things like Ethereum and other altcoins are considered even more risky, right? It's bad enough you still can't get some of the gold bugs, right, who actually believe in these inflation hedges to get into Bitcoin. So this is kind of why you're seeing Ethereum. And also there's a lot of uncertainty about the Ethereum merge and all that other stuff, right? But essentially just getting back to this chart, getting back to the Bitcoin chart. And the reason I focus on Bitcoin so much is because really that's what everyone is looking at. I wanted to revisit this fractal. Now, you guys know how I got this fractal, right? I basically just took this right here, this exact pattern, and I just copied it, and then I just pasted it over here. That's essentially what I did, right? So obviously fractals are fractals. They're not, exact maps or instructions of how the actual markets are going to play out. But if you actually look at what we've been doing so far, it kind of looks like we're doing something similar, right? Capitulation right here. Okay, came a little bit later, capitulation. So we can check that off the box, or at least the potential capitulation wick, right? It obviously wasn't the exact bottom, but you can see what we did was we actually traded sideways here. We had a fake out to the upside, which we did have right here when Bitcoin retested that $32,000 level. And although Bitcoin is still trading sideways a little bit, you could see that what happened after that was Bitcoin actually ended up coming down here and retesting the bottom 2 more times before actually moving to the upside. Now, I know what you're saying. The geopolitical US macroeconomic factors are different. Looming recession, stocks are crashing. Don't fight the Fed. Well, I totally understand that, guys. But here's the thing. If we do look at what Bitcoin does do historically, you'll notice that we do still have the 200 weekly at around $22,200. Now, if we go back to this fractal and we actually look at what this level would be down here, if Bitcoin was to potentially follow the fractal exactly, that brings us down to $22,373, which potentially does mean that, by the time Bitcoin does end up coming down to this level, you could have this reaching up a little bit more like this, and that could actually be the bottom, right? So we have actually talked about this a lot on the channel, but I do want to talk about something that is a little bit worrisome, just a little bit worrisome. So what we're looking at right here is the Fibonacci retracements of all the previous Bitcoin highs to lows, and then looking at what the next cycle did in comparison. And the main thing that you'll notice is right here at the 1.618 Fibonacci, which you guys can see is this blue area right here. Bitcoin always has a retest, right? And then it continues, and then we never go down to that level ever again. You can see right here, we have this touch right here. We have these 2 little wicks. You probably can't see this on if you're looking on a phone, but trust me, they're there. And then, we just continue to the upside. And again, if we come over to this cycle right here, you could see exactly where Bitcoin right here back in July of 2017, Bitcoin came down, touched the 1.618 again, never touched it again, and continued to the upside. Now, if I zoom into what we're doing right now, you could see that Bitcoin is hanging right here again on the 1.618. However, this time we didn't touch it once. We touched it 1, 2, wicked below it, and are currently sitting on it right now as I'm making this video for the third time. Now, this is not something that we typically see for Bitcoin. Now, I have talked about the fact that it was possible that Bitcoin could be putting in this sort of M-shaped pattern, right? We have that fake out to the downside, and then we continue the rally to the upside, putting in this giant double bottom. But just to play devil's advocate, if the Fed does continue to keep raising rates and have a hawkish stance, and we do continue to see traditional stocks in a bear market and they just keep falling, then does that mean that Bitcoin actually will retest some of these lower levels for the first time in its history? Now, just to point out, you can see that there is a very large gap between the even one and down here at the point 1.618, right? And you could see why. That's why once we broke through this area, there wasn't any resistance. There was nothing happening for Bitcoin right here. Bitcoin literally went straight from 20,000 all the way up to basically the levels that we're at right now, right? So if we were to fall through this level, then that would actually bring Bitcoin back to that $20,000 level. And if the worst case, bearish case happened, then the next level of support is the 0.786, which is sitting right here at $15,700. So it's not really that I'm trying to scare anybody. It's just I want to put this data out there so that we can look at it. Because, having a look at Bitcoin previously, you can see that every single time, Bitcoin's markets, even these mid-cycle rallies end with a blow-off top, right? Blow-off top. Even this little one right here, blow-off top. But what did we have here? We actually had a double top, right? We just kind of had this sort of double top pattern. Now, we've seen things like this traditionally in stocks, but we've never seen it for Bitcoin. We've also never seen as many red weekly closes for Bitcoin as we've seen before. So what we can honestly sort of assess or at least draw a conclusion to is that Bitcoin is ultimately doing a lot of things that it has never done before, right? So we may be entering a completely new paradigm shift for Bitcoin in a good way, but in a scary way short term. I do still believe that Bitcoin is going to be the best performing asset of our life over the next few decades, but unfortunately right now, we don't have the spot ETF. We don't have a lot of these big wealthy sovereign funds getting into Bitcoin, and those who are investing, those in Wall Street that have gotten in, especially a lot of the new traders, the new investors, are looking at this through the lens of a risk on asset, okay? So that is something that I just wanted to point out. Now you can see right here, we are in extreme fear, and actually Sentiment, this is a very strange post they put out, but they said when price fall below resistance like ETH and alts did on Friday, the community looks for explanations. The predominant accepted reason is the ongoing inflation and debt concerns. Previous 3 spikes in this subject's interest all marked local bottoms. Now, this is a sentiment thing they're talking about. This is not a technical thing they're talking about, and it's also not considering the fact that we haven't seen the Fed act the way that they have recently in quite a long time, right? A 4-decade high inflation. So, what are the Bitfinex longs doing? They're still longing, right? But of course, getting back to that Bitcoin dominance, we are noticing that these alts are getting hit hard in their Bitcoin pairs. Now, why is that? Well, it is obviously because a lot of these guys who are gold bugs or who look to gold as a inflation hedge, are looking into Bitcoin first, but they're not looking into the other altcoins. And I'm pretty sure right now, one of the guys just started up a saw outside. And yeah, you know how construction goes around here. Sorry if things get a little bit loud, but I'm not stopping making this video right now. So anyway, the CEO of Global Investment Management, Van Eck, says that Bitcoin could rally by around 732% from its current levels to reach $250,000. Now, why is this? It ties into what I was just saying. Investors see Bitcoin as a complement to gold. That's the short version. Bitcoin has limited supply, the supply is visible, and it's very hard, almost impossible to change that. Bitcoin will go to half the market cap of gold or 250,000 per Bitcoin, but he says it could take decades. Personally, I don't think it's going to take decades. I definitely think we could see a $250,000 Bitcoin within a decade. It's not impossible if you just look at the logarithmic charts, even considering diminishing returns. We're still looking at about $180,000 Bitcoin next cycle. I've gone over this multiple times. If you want to watch the video where we go over it specifically, I'll drop it above. I'll drop it above right there. He goes on to say Bitcoin has further price appreciation because it is maturing and its institutional adoption is increasing every year. It isn't just institutional investors, but also governments around the world that are looking to use it as an asset. Part of the demand for gold has been siphoned off into Bitcoin, which is emerging as a long-term competitor to gold. Gold was the primary asset, but sometimes people bought silver or other precious metals. People looking for a store of value will look to gold, but also to Bitcoin. We're in the middle stages of that adoption cycle, and there is further upside. So when you think about Bitcoin, right, kind of look at it like as if it was a person, right? So Bitcoin's only 13 something years old. Look at a 13-year-old, a teenager, right? They're not even full into maturity yet. They're making a lot of mistakes. They're screwing up. They're getting in trouble in school. They're slacking off. And honestly, people don't have a lot of confidence in their ability, right? But as they age, right, they get into their older teens, the 20s, then they get into their 30s. And you know what I'm saying? In your 30s, you start to kind of mature a little bit. You don't make the same mistakes. You can't quite party as hard as you used to back in the day. Okay, you get the point. But my example that I'm using is just to show that Bitcoin is still very young. But if you consider what Bitcoin has done in the 13 years that it has been around, it is quite an astonishing accomplishment. I mean, realistically, it shouldn't even be here, really, at this point. But when you look at something like the Lindy effect, right? And the Lindy effect essentially talks about, the longer something is here, the more likely that it'll be here again for that same amount of time. Now, that's obviously oversimplified, but essentially, if something's been around for 10 years, there's a very high likelihood that it will be around for another 10 years, right? So Bitcoin has already been around for 13 years. It's being adopted. You're seeing banks start to get involved in it. You're seeing these crypto regulations come out. So realistically, being bearish short-term, sure, long-term would be absolutely silly, because once we do get to these Bitcoin levels, and it's going to happen, 100K, 200K, 500K, a million at some point, the average person is not going to be able to have one Bitcoin. So right now at these levels, when you consider Bitcoin still at around 28,000, 30,000, and it might even go lower, I would personally be taking extra hours at work, getting a side hustle, cutting down my expenses. I mean, look, a story for you guys. You may not remember this, as Mike Novogratz smiles at me right now. For those of you that have been around, you may not know this, but, I was throwing absolutely everything I had into Bitcoin. By the way, don't do what I do, because what I did was stupid. In hindsight, it wasn't stupid, but it was stupid really when I was doing it. I was spending absolutely every dollar of my paycheck on Bitcoin, literally eating ramen noodles. My house was in foreclosure. I sold everything I had, my records, my posters, my cars. All I had was a bicycle, a computer, my YouTube channel, and the job that I was working to buy and dollar cost Bitcoin for 2 years straight. So that's what I did, guys. You don't have to do that, but I'm just saying these opportunities, everybody wishes that we would come down to these prices. You get the opportunities, and then some people just walk away and don't take it. And then they get angry the next cycle when they totally miss out, right? So speaking about what is happening, we have Mike Novogratz over at Galaxy Digital, and he's predicted that in order for crypto markets to recover, the Federal Reserve will need to back down. He says, my hope is that by the fourth quarter, the economy will be slowing enough that the Fed says we are going to pause, and then you will see the next crypto cycle start. Then Bitcoin will break from equities and lead markets. Rates are going to 5% in the US, and I hope that crypto can double. Again, I'm sorry about the noise if it's coming through on the thing. I want to get this video out. So guys, check this out. Really cool news, and then we'll get on out of here so you don't have to listen to that. MasterCard has revealed plans to expand access to the market for non-fungible tokens via card payments. The company has announced that it is collaborating with a number of Web3 and NFT companies to allow users to pay for their project using Bitcoin. And we also had another one I wanted to also talk about, American Express launching their first crypto product, a card that allows users to earn rewards in crypto. This is with a collaboration with Abra, and you can get rewards in over 100 cryptocurrencies. That's pretty cool. I do use American Express a lot, so that's awesome. And finally, the new project called Web 5. What happened to Web 4? We're just going straight to Web 5, no Web 4. The new project called Web 5 represents the latest Bitcoin-centric endeavor to be pursued by Jack Dorsey since stepping down as CEO of Twitter, whereas Web 3 incorporates blockchain technology and tokenization to decentralize the internet. Web 5 is being envisioned as an identity-based system that only utilizes one blockchain, Bitcoin. Web 5 utilizes Ion, which they describe as an open, public, permissionless, decentralized ID network. So really interesting. I'm curious to see how they actually get this done over on Bitcoin. And also, guys, just friendly reminder, there's literally 2 hours. I posted over on Twitter just to remind you guys if you want to get into the Cantina Royale. I'm actually trying to refresh this to see if it's I don't know what's going on with my internet right now. But anyway, guys, there's really only, 2 hours left, 721 entries. Remember, there's only 25 for the giveaway, so if you're interested in that, check that out. And also, $4,100 bonus on MEXC. Check the links out below, $23,000 in bonuses. I gotta stop the video right now. It's way too loud. Thank you for coming back. Hopefully tomorrow is a much more quiet day. I love you guys. You're awesome. Stay crypto. Make sure you check out these videos right here, right now. And of course, peace out.